You've already heard the answer you're searching for. Someone said it to you years ago in a sentence you forgot the moment it left their mouth. The teaching that could have changed everything passed straight through you and vanished, because you were the same person leaving the room as the one who entered it. And today you'll understand why the most important truths arrive precisely when you can finally hold them. There's an old Hermetic line that sounds almost cruel at first. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. Read it once and it feels like a velvet rope, a gate, some secret society guarding its treasures from the unworthy. That reading is upside down. The gate isn't guarded by a gatekeeper. The gate is your own capacity to receive. Think about what actually happens when you give advice to someone who isn't ready. You hand them the exact words, they nod, they might even repeat the words back to you, and then they walk out and do the same thing they were always going to do. The words landed on the surface and rolled off like rain on glass. You explained it perfectly. They simply couldn't absorb it. So what is this thing called readiness? And why does it decide everything? Here's where it gets practical. A teaching is a seed. The same seed dropped on concrete and dropped on tilled soil produces wildly different results, and the seed is identical in both cases. The difference lives entirely in the ground. Your readiness is the soil. It's the accumulated weight of your own questions, your own failures, the specific bruises you've collected from trying and falling short. Wisdom germinates only where life has already broken the ground open. This is why you can read a quote at 20 and feel nothing, then read the very same quote at 35 and feel it crack you in half. The words stayed the same. You changed. The years between those two readings filled you with the exact experiences that made the sentence finally legible. Consider the master and the student. A real teacher knows something that frustrates every impatient seeker. They can point, they can phrase the truth 100 ways. But the final step, the moment where the teaching stops being information and becomes yours, that step happens inside you, in private, where no teacher can reach. The lips of wisdom stay closed to the ears of understanding, because understanding is something the listener builds alone. And this reframes the whole game of seeking. You've probably been collecting teachings like a person filling a backpack with stones, thinking the weight itself was progress. More books, more lectures, more saved videos you'll watch someday. Information piled on an unready mind just becomes clutter. It sits there, undigested, making you feel knowledgeable, while changing nothing about how you actually live. What would it mean to stop gathering and start ripening? Let me show you the mechanism, because this is plain and physical. Understanding has a structure. When you truly grasp something, you've connected a new idea to a living web of your own experience. The idea hooks into something you felt, something you've struggled with, something you needed. Strip away those hooks, and the idea has nowhere to attach. It floats for a moment and drifts away. This is why a teaching about patience means almost nothing to someone who has never been forced to wait for something they desperately wanted. So readiness, stripped to its core, is the presence of the right hooks. And you build those hooks through living, through trying things and watching them fail, through wanting something so badly that the wanting carves a question into you. The question is the hook. And when the answer finally comes, it has somewhere to land. Picture a child being handed a lesson about money. You can explain compound interest, sacrifice, the slow discipline of saving, and the child will hear sounds. The words enter perfectly and mean nothing, because nothing in that small life has yet demanded them. Now hand the same lesson to someone who just watched a decade of effort drain through their fingers. Suddenly, every word is a knife. The teaching didn't grow sharper. The listener grew capable of being cut. That is the entire mystery of readiness, lived out in a single human life over and over. And notice how it humbles the impatient seeker. The Hermetic texts speak of degrees, of an initiate who climbs from one level of understanding to the next. Each level isn't a new secret whispered by a hidden master. Each level is a new depth of soil prepared by everything the seeker survived to get there. You cannot leap 3 rungs because the rungs are made of you. The ladder is built from the very experiences you keep trying to skip. There's a discipline hidden in this that most seekers skip. They want the answer before they've earned the question. They want the harvest while the field is still bare. The Hermetic teaching is telling you to reverse your relationship with time. Stop chasing the teaching. Start deepening the question. Live with your confusion long enough that it ripens into genuine readiness, and the right teaching will appear to find you, almost as if it had been waiting. You feel this every time a friend gives you advice you reject, then arrive at the identical conclusion 2 years later, on your own, and call it your great discovery. They told you, you couldn't hear it. The ears weren't ready. The understanding had to be built first, brick by private brick, through the slow work of your own experience. So here's the uncomfortable part, and I want to sit on the uncomfortable side, rather than soften it. If readiness determines what you can receive, then most of what's missing in your life right now is missing because of your capacity, while the world holds nothing back. It's available. It's been said, written, offered, sometimes directly to your face. The bottleneck is you. The teaching is on the table. Your capacity to digest it is what's still under construction. That's a heavier responsibility than blaming a closed gate, because it puts the work back in your hands. How do you become ready? You can't fake it, and you can't rush it, but you can cultivate it. Start by treating your own struggles as the curriculum. The thing you're wrestling with right now, the problem that keeps you up at night, that's the question being carved into you. Stay with it. Let it deepen. Because that very struggle is preparing the soil for a teaching you haven't even encountered yet. The pain has a function. It's tilling the ground. Next, revisit. The teachings that bored you, the books that felt obvious, the advice that seemed too simple, go back to them. You've changed since you last met those words. The person reading today has hooks the old person lacked. A line you skimmed past might now stop you cold. Reading the same wisdom at different stages of readiness is how a single sentence can teach you 10 different lessons across a lifetime. And practice what little you do understand. Here's the quiet secret of growth. Understanding expands by use. The small piece you genuinely grasp, when you apply it, when you live it, it opens the door to the next piece. Application is how you ripen. You live your way into readiness, one applied truth at a time, each one preparing the ground for the next. Most people invert this. They wait to understand fully before they act, and so they wait forever, because full understanding arrives only on the far side of action. You learn to swim by getting wet, swallowing water, flailing toward the edge. No amount of poolside study makes the lesson land in your muscles. The teaching about courage becomes real the first time you do the frightening thing while still afraid. Then you reread the old words and they finally mean what they always meant. The page was patient. You were the one who had to move. This is the part that asks something real of you. Readiness is earned in the body, in the doing, in the willingness to be a clumsy beginner, long enough for the lesson to take root. This is why two people can sit in the same room, hear the same teacher, read the same page, and walk out with entirely different worlds inside them. One was ready. One was filling a backpack with stones. Same words, same air, same teacher, different soil. There's a deeper turn here that the teaching points toward. As your understanding grows, the very meaning of the words you already know keeps changing. Love means one thing to a child, another to someone who is lost. Surrender sounds like weakness to the untested, and like strength to someone who has finally stopped fighting reality. The teachings get simpler as you ripen, and somehow infinitely deeper. You return to the same handful of basic truths and find oceans where you once saw puddles. So the journey of understanding is a spiral, not a march toward exotic new information. You keep circling back to the same essential truths, and each time around you bring more of yourself, and so you receive more of what was always already there. The lips of wisdom were never withholding anything. They were waiting for ears deep enough to hold the sound. And this is the freedom buried inside what first looked like a locked door. The wisdom you need sits in plain view, available to anyone the moment you become the kind of person who could hold it. The work is about becoming ready. So stop demanding the harvest from the field you haven't planted. Stop collecting teachings you have no hooks to hold. Take the one small truth you actually understand today and live it so completely that it cracks you open to the next. Let your struggles do their slow work. Let your questions ripen. Trust that what you cannot yet hear is patiently waiting for the version of you that finally can. The teacher you've been searching for has been speaking the entire time. The day your ears grow deep enough, you'll realize the silence was always yours, never theirs. And the moment you ripen, the whole world starts whispering everything it always knew you'd one day be ready to hear.